There we go. Okay, if you were here for the 40K stream, and you're back, welcome back. Today, obviously, we're going to talk about Veery-Myn and my tournament list for a 1,250 point tournament coming up on November 2nd. This is my list, the 1,250 Rat Bastards, as it is titled. You can see on the screen. What we're going to do is we're going to go through each unit, kind of talk about why I took it. There's a few things I want to say up front. One, Phoenix Gaming is the official organizer for this tournament, which is effectively me. But what we do is I have a committee that takes turns kind of organizing events so that we all get a chance to play. You know, so like I might run a 40K event so that all the people can play 40K. And then one of them will run this event so that everybody can play. So we have this kind of rotation of players that will take charge of being the organizer or head judge for the event. So, and part of that is also so there's no like conflict of interest, you know, and if I end up playing in a Phoenix Gaming event, I'm never eligible for any prize support. So again, I just want to say all that stuff up front, you know, because there's going to be some people who are going to be like, hey, this guy's running this tournament. Technically, yes and no. I'm not, but my channel is. So, that being said, it is 6 players right now that are registered. We have one Asterians player. We have one Forge Father player. We have one Plague player. We have one GCPS player. And then we have one Marauder player. And then myself. I was on the fence on whether or not I wanted to play with my Enforcers or whether or not I wanted to play with my Veery-Myn. I'm leaning towards the Veery-Myn, mostly because like this is like the first pick I would have picked for my army. I love the models. The model range is awesome. I love it. I had no clue about any of this game when I first bought my army and I got the Enforcers. And I do like Enforcers. I like them a lot. They play very well. Godzilla stop. Hey, what's up, dude? Are you not at school today? Did you stay home? I actually texted your mom about that. Oh, you had scans. That's right. Never mind. You know, big shout out. Hey, if you're in the chat, keep it civil. That is my son Eli, and you know, he's in the chat with us. So he just finished up his scan. So hopefully everything's good there. She's doing better. She's getting a lot better. She's back at work, and you know, so that's cool. And her tum is feeling a bit better. And we've had a lot of illness in the house for those that are kind of watching and being like, what is this guy talking about? That being said, you know, like I said, I did consider the Enforcers, but I really wanted an excuse to get these Veery-Myn on the table. So I'm still kind of undecided. I don't have to have my list submitted yet. When I submit it, that's when I'll make the decision. But if I play my Veery-Myn, this is what I'm going to play. And honestly, it's also going to end up depending on if we end up needing a ringer. Because if we need a ringer, the ringer will get to use my Enforcers. Because they're just like a little bit easier and more straightforward to use. So we're going to start off by talking about my command units. What I took, why I took them, all that jazz. And then we're going to kind of dig in. I'm not going to get into the missions or anything yet. And then I will do a recap. So if you saw my Michigan GT recap video, and I'll try to remember to put a link to that in the comments. I went through each game a little bit and kind of talked about what went well, what didn't go well. I'll do the same thing here, but I'll make a better note to keep track of how the games went and how they progressed so that I can give a better recap. Usually my recaps are pretty good. I just had never played much Firefight, so that was my first recap, and I just was so overwhelmed from the tournament that I had a hard time remembering everything. So for command, and this is just a me thing. I know like some of the players I played against had like 3 command units. Some of them have had 2. I went to the tournament with a single one at the Michigan GT. I've got 2 command units going into this one. I've got the Master Creeper and the Tangle Tunneler. Now, the Master Creeper does give me a black die, which is kind of cool. Small unit 3. Yeah, everybody can see that. I had to make sure. Small unit 3. Evade. Scout. Whatever. Like, all that jazz. I'm not super worried about it. That's not why I took him. The Exploding Rats aura is pretty good, increasing the AP by 1 for all shooting and assault attacks for friendly troops. The issue is that I'm not sure how I want to play them, because part of me wants to put them on the table and part of me wants to put them in a transport. And we'll get into that once I hit my transport. I haven't quite figured out the best way to approach it. And it's probably one of those where I really should make it matchup specific rather than this is how it's going to be all the time. But I have a lot of troops, so it's one of those like there's no reason not to. Now, homie does have 4 regular creepers with them. So the big thing with the creepers is that they're AP3 anti-tank devastating D2. And the issue I run into, though, is that just like with the B and E enforcers, the volume of attacks is so low that, like, they just underwhelm. You know? You got options. If you charge them out of the transport, it's a hindered charge, but then I could give them an order to ignore that. Or I could give them Teeth and Claws, which gives them Frenzy 2, and then also Vicious, if I remember right. So I have some options, but the issue becomes, is that really worth it? You know, so I'm still trying to kind of figure out how to use this, 4 creepers and Master Creeper unit. I wanted to take a unit of regular creepers, but it just made more sense for me to do it this way, because if I put them in the transport, they can just give themselves the order before they get out, right? So, like, it's one of those, like, that was my thinking. But the Exploding Rats aura wouldn't affect them because they're not a troop unit, they're a command unit. So that's where, like, starting with them on the table might be worth. I just got to play some more games to kind of figure out where I want them. And like I said, I think by and large it might just be, I just need to make it matchup dependent, you know. If you don't have any indirect, there's a good chance I just start with them on the table. If you do have indirect, man, probably not, you know, because, like, I don't want to pick them up. Tangle Tunneler, it's weird. I love it. It's funny. I don't know, like, I don't know. The thing is just so weird. It's got heavy armor, 8+ armor, 4 hit points. It does go deep strike, subterranean deployment. Gives me 2 orange dice, which is spicy. It is tracked and a vehicle, but it is also very inspiring, which is very nice. And it has controlled fire, which again is fine. I don't care. That's not why I take it. The Aura of Dread, I don't know that I've ever used, but I like that I could. You pick 2 enemy units within 18 inches, except for vehicles and constructs, and each of those units makes a nerve test. If it fails a test, it gets a pin marker. That's going to be one of those that's situationally good or matchup good. Like, there's going to be matchups where that's not going to do anything. Like in the Forge Fathers or maybe Enforcers, maybe that doesn't do anything. But into something like maybe Marauders, if I can add a pin token to a unit or 2, that could get a little spicy. You know, into Plague also, you know, so it's one of those, like, it has play, but I didn't take it for its Aura of Dread. Really what I took it for was that it's got Psychic Maelstrom, which is 6 dice at AP1 with pinning and Psychic. And then it's got Psychic Detonation, which is 4 dice, AP3 anti-tank and Psychic. So it just makes it a versatile shooting platform where I can hand out a pin token potentially to a vehicle, hand out a pin token potentially to infantry, you know, and do some damage. Like, it does hit on 5s, which is kind of poopy, but at the same time, like, it doesn't need line of sight because it's psychic, and it ignores a lot of modifiers because it's psychic. So for the most part, I'm just always going to hit on 5s. So it's not the worst thing. It's just kind of like this weird thing. I took it because, like, the thing's kind of silly, and I love it. So those are my command units. That'll give me 2 orange and a black for command dice. One thing I've realized is I just don't care if I go first in this game. I really don't. If you deploy well enough, it shouldn't matter too much. Obviously, there's going to be some times or situations where you get kind of stuck. But generally speaking, you should not get punished for going second. I've not come across a situation in which you do. And if you do, I would argue that you probably just don't have enough terrain on the board. Now, I do have 2 units of crawlers. It's 9 crawlers plus the leader. They do have Overwhelm 10, so while it's a full unit, they get to go to unit strength 3, because of Overwhelm. I don't know if it's the right play, but I did give them the heavy ray gun for the sergeant. I don't know how I feel about the chem throwers, because these things, like, the chem thrower is arguably probably a better take, even though it's a shorter range, just because it does hit on 4s. Wizard arrives. That's right. I am never late. Only when I mean to. So the crawlers are kind of weird. It's one of those, I put them on the table and I'm like, oh, these are going to be cool. And then I use them and I'm like, oh yeah, like these things are literal dumpster juice. So what I've started to do is just use Blaze Away a lot more often than actual shooting, because they hit on 6s. But if I Blaze Away, I get 9 shots to do a Blaze Away action. So it's one of those, like, I get 9 shots hitting on 8s that could hand out a pin token, or I get 11 shots hitting on 6s that won't hand out a pin token. And actually, I don't get 9. I get 11. I forgot that the ray gun also has Blaze Away. So it's like I just kind of have leaned more into just using them as a Blaze Away platform rather than like any kind of shooting, and just trying to use them to like sprint onto objectives and maybe bait some charges. I do have 2 units of stalkers, and I will say I love stalkers. I think these things are probably going to be the backbone of my army. Having used them for multiple games now, they just feel really good. I haven't looked at the Maligny yet, and that's just because, like, A, I don't have them, and B, I don't feel like kit bashing them right now. I have the bits that I probably could kit bash them, but that ain't me right now, dog. Like, I've got way too much other stuff to worry about. I kit bashed my creepers. I got some green stuff and, like, gave them cloaks and stuff. So I don't know that I want to kit bash Maligny. But I love the stalkers. They're cheap. 13 bodies is 100 points. Like, they are cheap. They have Frenzy 2. They assault on 5s, just like the... Why did I give him a chem thrower? That is not what he should have. Oh no. Oh, I see. I just screwed up on one of them. I was going to say, man, this is really confusing. So anyway, Frenzy 2, 2 dice per boy. So if I can get a full squad in, that's 26 dice. There's no AP, but at the same time, if you don't have a hindered charge, you're hitting on 4s, like, it's just a lot of dice. And just for their points, they have a pretty good damage output. They're not going to stand up to much, but they're going to hand it out pretty well. And they have good order support. Like, if you get them within the aura of the one dude, the Master Creeper, they go to AP 1. You could Teeth and Claws them to give them Frenzy 4 and Vicious, which is actually really good with the amount of dice that they roll. You could make sure that their charge isn't hindered. Like, they have a lot of options. And I just feel like the Stalkers really are kind of like the backbone of this army, just based off of my experience. I have 2 units of 4 Nightmares. Again, this is another one of those units that I love. I couldn't tell you what people play in a competitive sense. I don't look through lists. I don't worry about what others are doing. I just kind of look at what I like and how it helps me and how it fits the way I play, and I play it. So if Nightmares are something that people are bringing a lot of, it wouldn't surprise me. But holy cow, do I love these things. You could take the 2 heavy combat drills, because you can put 1 on your leader, and then you can take 1 additional. That's 4 dice at AP 3 with anti-tank. They are a prime target for Teeth and Claws. Giving them Vicious and then Frenzy too makes them just like that's a lot to deal with, because if it's not a hindered charge, you're hitting on 3s with Frenzy 2. And if you need, like, if you're into a tank, those 4 dice, those 8 dice coming through, that's gonna do some damage. Like, that's meaty. Having 2 rerolls and then rerolling 1s, that's spicy. And then you get the other 2 with Twin Combat Trills. They're only 3 dice each, but they are Vicious. So this is where maybe Teeth and Claws wouldn't be so good, because you're overlapping with the Vicious that's on the other 2 models. But there's plenty of things that you can do with them. Like you can ignore the hindered charge for your command point. They've got some play, and we'll go over orders at the end of the list. But I've got 2 units of 4 of those. I love them. I think they're the bee's knees. I have a Tunnel Runner, a unit of 4. These go into subterranean deployment. I do like... They're one of those units that could go on the table or in reserves, and it wouldn't feel bad. Just because they have good volume when it comes to shooting, especially when you have a unit this big. And then they have good volume when it comes to melee, and they move pretty quick with a 12 and an 18. So like subterranean deployment, vehicle wheeled, evade. Evade is weird. You make an advance and it has to be in a straight line away from the assaulting unit. After the assault reaction is resolved, move the assaulting unit into contact, blah, 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 blah. So basically you get to, if you charge me and they're able to make a reaction, they just get to run away. And again, it's weird. And it's one that I have to work on how to use more efficiently, but I'm getting there. The Twin Chem Spitter is 3 dice with Blaze Away. So again, a unit of 4 is going to get 12 dice hitting on 5s. It is AP2, so it's pretty good shooting. And then you can volatile it, which is funny. But it can be a detriment also. Volatile is hilarious. I love it. And then the Tunnel Runner sides. 4 dice, AP1, and then Vicious. So like those will mulch a lot of infantry just because of volume, and then Vicious. And then 1 Tunneler. This thing's got like everything under the sun, as you can see. It's got a transport capacity of 10, heavy armor, subterranean deployment, tracked vehicle, blah, 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 blah. It's got shields. So the shield aura is weird because this one is optional. So like the Asterian's shields, my understanding is those are mandatory. This one's optional because it says you may. You may choose to place hits from a shoot, blaze away, or steady aim action against the tunneler. And you get... other than that, it works just like shields, and it's an aura rather than just being it. So again, it's just kind of weird. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of goofy. Controlled fire, it does have anti-tank devastating D2, 3 shots at AP3. It does hit on 5. So again, like the super heavy ray gun, I don't know if that's the play. But I know I don't have a ton of anti-tank. And part of it is I am just playing what I have. I know one of my buddies has got some STLs that he's getting printed up for me that we got off of the vault and stuff like that. So I'll have a few more options here soon, but part of it is just making sure I'm playing models that I actually have. I should be getting the Broodmother here pretty soon too, which is awesome. I love the model. I don't care if it's good. Like, the model's just cool. So it's just the balance of making sure I have anti-tank shooting, anti-tank melee, stuff to deal with like heavy things, and volume to deal with not heavy things. Where this thing really kind of shines is its melee with 6 dice and anti-tank. Like, yeah, it's gonna struggle into maybe like armor 8, but again, like it's gonna just like clap some Forge Father infantry cheeks, and if I can get a damage or 2 through when I charge with it into like a tank, I'm probably winning that assault simply because of the fact that I'm AP2 with anti-tank. So even at armor 8, I'm still wounding on 6s. So, like, if I can get something through, I'm doing all right. You know, like I don't necessarily need to my brain, it'll get there. I don't know. Fuck it. Sorry. You know, sometimes, and again, if you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you know that sometimes it just locks up there, you know. But, you know, it's not terrible anti-vehicle. It's just not going to kill tanks. Like, you're relying more on winning an assault than killing in the assault. You know, one thing that I could take or leave is that, like, Firefight and probably Kings of War, and I assume it's more of a Mantic thing, it gives you all the math hammer here. Like, it tells you, like, your average shot AP, your total shot dice, total assault dice. I don't math hammer much. And I'm not... I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound like I'm bragging, and I guess in a way I am. But I've... multiple years as a 40K player, I've finished top 10 on like actual BCP, like official rankings for my factions that I play. Like, I finished top 10 for Orcs, I finished top 10 for Drukhari, and I don't mean in the country, I mean in the world. You know, I'm usually, when I was playing regularly for 40K, I was one of the top 5 to 10%. Because remember, 40K on PCP has like 30,000 registered players. So, you know, being able to be in the top 10%, that's saying something, you know. And I did it without math hammering. I did it without really, like, paying attention to meta. And a lot of it just stems from, like, table time. You know, I put a lot of time in to kind of get a feel for how things work. I'm much less of a min-max on paper, like, how do I min-max this? And much more of a what's the table feel player. Because one thing that I know about dice games is it doesn't matter what the math is. There's going to be times where the math doesn't matter, right? Like, math don't math. And that's going to hold true for any kind of dice game. And, you know, the math doesn't necessarily account for cover. The math doesn't account for differing opponents, differing this, differing that. So I don't really sweat the math on it. I just kind of look at what I like, look at if it's usable, and figure out how to make it work, and then go from there. So while I understand and appreciate that, you know, like, Mantic gives us all this, like, you get this many shot dice, I don't care. You know, and if you use it, I'm not putting you down in any way. I understand that for some players it's a valuable tool. Like, some players want to make sure that they don't, like I have 50 more assault dice than I do shooting dice. There's going to be players who look at that and go, oh, I need more shooting dice, or I need this, you know, and that's totally fine. I'm just telling you my perspective on it is just like, bro, I'm going to take what I like, I'm going to put it on the table, and we're going to just see who the better player is, you know. We're going to let Jesus take the wheel. So, like I said, we're going to look at some of the orders, because there's some neat ones in here, and like Teeth and Claws is awesome. Frenzy 2, Vicious Assault, really good. The fact that it's usable by anything that can, you know, receive an order is amazing. You know, so you could really, like, buff any unit for the most part here. And their melee is weird. The whole army's weird. And coming from Enforcers to Veery-Myn has been kind of a struggle, because I'm just like, man, like, I have these trash units, and then I have these units that aren't trash, and I got to figure out how to make them work together, you know? So, like, it's just been a mindset change. But Teeth and Claws I like a lot. It's one of those that I use every game. I can't think of a single game in which I haven't used it. Burrowing Attack is awesome. Teeth and Claws I use almost every turn. Burrowing Attack I probably use once a game. And it is fantastic, because I could theoretically, you know, take a pinned unit and make an advanced, or make a hindered charge with it using Burrowing Attack. It does cost 3 command points to do that, but that's still really good. And then the fact that I can like charge out of a transport and just be like, haha, I'm still hitting on 4s or 3s because it's not a hindered charge. Like, really good. Pestilent Haze, it's good. I just forget it exists. And arguably, I need to be better about that. And part of it is because of how I've been playing. Like I said, I've been playing the Master Creeper in the transport. And I probably need to play some games where he's on the table so that I can have a bigger spread of where my orders can go. But Pestilent Haze, you know, giving a big unit stealthy and cover goes a long way for making these like trash units more resilient against enemy shooting. Volatile is hilarious. I don't use it a lot, but it is super funny. And really, it's one of those, like, I've never used it going, man, I hope this does something. It's more just like, well, I have a command point. Let's just see what happens. You know, it gives you +1 to hit. And bonus AP. Models, however. And then hit rolls of 1 can't be re-rolled. And they cause a single point of damage each. And then if you take damage in this way, it gets activated and pinned. And you can stack this with a steady aim, so that's important to note. Like, if you're not planning on moving, it's probably worth to volatile a unit and just try to maximize the amount of damage they can put out. And like I said, on the tunnel runners, it's really funny because it's just so many dice. But you could end up like picking up whole bases to that too, which is fair, but it's still also funny. Narcotic Frenzy is one that I use sometimes. And again, this is one that I just need to remember that I have. But it gives a troops unit resilient too. Which again, it doesn't sound like much. But like, there's been games into like Plague where it's kind of saved my ass. Because they'll charge me with zombies and they maybe get like 6 or 5 damage in. And then I'm like, but it's resilient too. And then they only kill like a couple rats. And that allows me to swing back and really like decimate the zombies. So it's situationally good. I don't know that it's like amazing. I do like that for 3 command points, you can put it on specialist and support units. Because again, that gives tunnel runners, which are armor 7, resilient too. And that's pretty spicy. Lucky Shot gives trademark weapons in the unit marksman and vicious. It's okay. It's just the problem is that most of the things that have trademark just kind of suck at shooting. So there's not really a reason to like give them that, right? Like crawlers. We've got ray guns, trademark. Cool. It's a single die and I can re-roll 1s, but I hit on 6s. If you have cover, I'm going to hit on 7s. Oh boy. You know, like I'm trying to think. Are Maligni, I don't even know that they have trademark weapons access. I don't think so. And then Tunnel Runners don't have trademark. Nightmares don't have... Oh, actually, maybe they do. Because they do have some gun options. No, probably not. Because it's a chem thrower. I want to like them too. But, like, I don't know. I just think their melee is too good. I could see maybe doing this. It is only 2 attacks in melee. But I could see maybe taking a unit with a couple of regular chem throwers. But I just, like I said, I look at them and I see countercharge and I'm just like, there's no reason for guns. Yeah, no, it's just one of those, like, I'm looking at this and the things that have access to trademark are probably not even worth using Lucky Shot on. Just because it's like, sure, man, I guess I could. You know, all in all, it's just one of those, like, this one right here feels weird, and maybe I'm wrong. So, like, if you're watching this and you play this army, you've probably played more games with it than I have. So feel free to correct me, but I just look at this order and I'm just like, I don't see a point in it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think any of the support stuff has trademark. I do want to get some rumblers. Those are cool. Then, like I said, I've got my commander orders, exploding rats, 12-inch aura of bonus AP for shooting and assault attacks, but that's only for troops. So again, I need to get better about starting with him on the table and maybe putting some crawlers into my words are hard. My tunneler. There we go. It's just one of those, like, I've got to figure out what's best, for me. Rumbler, Death Engine, Aura of Dread, like I said. And that's the one thing I've also noticed is really a lot of their command orders aren't great. Or maybe it may be my perspective because of coming from Enforcers, where the command orders are actually all just really good. I look at a lot of these and I'm just like, these are kind of like, meh. We'll kind of dig into some before we end this stream. Because that's pretty much the list. So what we'll do is we'll kind of dig into some of these command orders for a couple minutes so I can show you what I mean. And then we'll probably end it. So like we've already talked about the Master Creeper, the Progenitor, Haze Grenades. Haze Grenades isn't bad. It's a 9-inch. You pick one unit. They gain the stealthy keyword until the start of its next activation. So that one's not terrible. The problem is that, again, like, I look at Progenitors and I'm just like, they don't really do anything, right? And arguably, I probably need to play with them a bit more. Like, they're not terrible. But I'm looking at it like I can take a chemical grenade. 18 inches, it gets chem shells. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I wish I would have taken this. This is actually pretty good. Oh, man. God dang it. The smoke grenade is whatever, but man, like those haze grenades, that could get spicy. Blast D4 with toxic. The problem is that it's one shot. And then the spitter rifle is one shot, but it's sniper scope at AP2. But then like you have Maligny you can take. And then crawlers. So again, it's just one of those like kind of weird. Are Maligny, what do they hit on? Are they 6s just like everything else? Or are they 5s? So these are 5s. Okay, so that's why they're more expensive. So that might be something to consider. Is maybe instead of the Master Creeper, oh man, taking the Progenitor. I don't know. It's one of those like, I could see it going either way. The pack leader of the pack aura, all friendly non-vehicle units within 12 gain vicious and frenzy 1. Like that one's okay, but I already have an order that does that. And yeah, this is an aura, but it's just like one of those kind of like, this is redundant, and it does let you do it in 2 different places, so I guess that's fair. And this one doesn't work on vehicles, so again, like they're not the same, but it just seems kind of redundant. The pack leader himself, though, is like 6 dice at AP1 with elite. And then it can only take... Oh, I can take heavy. Okay, so the pack leader with a couple heavy combat drills might be worth. That's kind of spicy. But then we're talking about a pretty expensive unit. But again, it's like not that it's bad. I just... Hey, what's up, Tyler? Seeing you on Twitch. What up, dude? You missed the Drukari stream. That's okay. Doing the... we're actually wrapping this one up, too. And then I'll be heading your way as soon as Izzy's off of school, because it should be a half day today. So, you know, it's not that they're bad. It's just that it's not like when I look at the Enforcers and I'm like, man, these are good. And again, it could just be because Enforcers just have good orders, you know, and that could be it. The Broodmother, again, I love this model. Let's look at her. She's so handsome. Look at this big old pot-bellied bitch. Woo! I love it, dude. I love that thing. Absolutely love that thing. So, inside the lair, 2 units can remove a pin marker. And again, like, I'm not saying that's bad. I've just not run into too many situations personally where I'm like, man, I need to have these pin markers gone. So it's just kind of weird, you know? And again, maybe as I play more, I'll run into situations where I'm like, okay, I do need this. Again, I feel like her melee is a little underwhelming at AP1. It doesn't do anything. The Chem Staff is pretty spicy. I do like that she can take Brood Guard. I do like Brood Guard. I like them a lot. They get controlled fire and counter charge by themselves. Obviously, they don't with her. They don't get shit with her, so that's cool. Hopefully, they're the same price. There's my snarkiness, sorry. You know, but like P2, you know, so like these are actually pretty good. They're 2 hit points with armor 7. Elite when they're by themselves, so they reroll their own hits of 1. Like, these things are pretty spicy. I like Brood Guard. They have a place. And then having controlled fire with chem throwers is pretty spicy also. But, you know, like the Brood Mother, like I said, like she gives you a green die, which is cool. But ultimately, like, meh. The Tangle just has the Aura of Dread, which is the same as the Tangle Tunneler. You know, so again, the order itself is just kind of like, eh. You are limited to 1 of those, each one. And then that's it, man. So like I said, like, it's just kind of weird. I look at these orders, and I'm like, man, these are kind of like, they're okay. There's nothing crazy good about them. There's not really any that are like real bad. They're just kind of all meh. So, but that's it. We're going to wrap this up. I just wanted to walk everybody through my tentative list. It could change, but this is what I'm looking at playing. It really just depends on if I have access to a couple other things, because I should be getting the Brood Mother and some Brood Guard by then, so I may bring them. And then if homie's got there's a Mutant Rat Fiend, I think it is, whatever the big thing is. If I've got that, I'll play that. So again, appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Everybody have a great